What if one day, without warning, Earth started hurtling toward the sun? Imagine waking up in the morning, grabbing your cup of coffee and hearing on the news that Earth is on a collision course with our giant flaming neighbor. It would be the kind of news that would make even the most chill person spit out their drink. First off, let's talk about what would happen to our planet as it begins its wild journey towards the sun. Right now, Earth is cruising comfortably in its orbit at about 93 million miles away from the sun. We've got just the right balance. Close enough to stay warm, far enough to avoid being crispy fried. But as we start inching closer, things are going to get toasty. The first sign of trouble? The heat. Every day it would get a little hotter. At first it might feel like a record-breaking summer heat wave. You'd crank up the AC, maybe head to the beach, but then the days would get unbearably hot. Imagine the hottest day you've ever experienced, then multiply that by 10. Your ice cream? Gone in seconds. Your sunscreen? Might as well be butter. Even the most heat-tolerant people would start feeling like they're living in a giant oven. As we draw nearer to the sun, not only would temperatures soar, but our oceans would begin to boil. That's right, the oceans, those vast, seemingly endless bodies of water, would start evaporating into the atmosphere. Pretty soon, going for a swim would be out of the question unless you enjoy bathing in steam. In fact, Earth's atmosphere would become thick with water vapor, turning the whole planet into a pressure cooker. Breathing would become harder, and the sky might start looking like a foggy, steamy mess. Now, as if the intense heat and evaporating oceans weren't enough, there's also the matter of gravity. The closer we get to the sun, the stronger its gravitational pull becomes. Imagine being yanked toward the sun like it's the universe's most powerful magnet. You'd feel a little lighter and maybe you'd be tempted to see if you could jump higher than before. But don't get too excited. This is gravity's way of giving you one last party trick before things get seriously out of hand. Plants and animals would begin to struggle almost immediately. Most crops would wither away under the blazing sun, leading to widespread food shortages. The animals that rely on those crops would also face starvation. Only the hardiest, most heat-tolerant species might survive for a while. Think camels, cacti, and maybe cockroaches. Those guys are tough. But eventually even they wouldn't be able to take the heat. As Earth spirals closer, day by day, the surface would become a barren wasteland. Forests would catch fire, rivers would dry up, and even the hardiest deserts would start to resemble the surface of Mercury, nothing but scorched rock and dust. People would try to flee to underground bunkers, deep caves, or even move to the poles where it might be slightly cooler, for a little while. But let's be real, there's only so much you can do when your entire planet is being dragged toward a fiery doom. Meanwhile, the sun, in all its nuclear-powered glory, would start to fill the sky. It wouldn't just be a bright light up there anymore. It would dominate the horizon, turning the sky into a terrifying orange-red blaze. You wouldn't be able to look outside without feeling like you're staring into the heart of a furnace. And speaking of furnaces, the air would become so hot that even metals might start to soften. Walking outside without protection would be like stepping into a blast furnace. At some point during this cosmic nightmare, Earth's surface would get so hot that it would begin to melt. The ground beneath your feet would turn into lava, and any remaining structures, buildings, bridges, monuments, would collapse into molten goo. If you've ever played with those volcano science kits as a kid, just imagine that on a global scale. The whole planet would be one giant, oozing, melting mess. But the fun doesn't stop there. As Earth gets even closer to the sun, it would begin to break apart. The intense heat and gravitational forces would cause the planet to crack and crumble like a cookie dipped in hot tea. Huge chunks of Earth would be pulled off and drawn toward the sun. We'd be saying goodbye to mountains, continents, and maybe even whole countries as they're torn apart by the sun's gravity. And what about us humans? Well, assuming we haven't been roasted, boiled, or vaporized by this point, there's still a tiny chance we might survive, briefly. If anyone managed to escape to space and time, they'd be witnessing the final moments of Earth from afar. But even in space, there'd be no escaping the sun's gravitational pull. Any spaceship or station would also start getting dragged toward the sun, turning a bad situation into a full-blown cosmic disaster. Eventually, the remains of Earth would spiral into the sun's outer layers, causing a spectacular light show visible from any surviving space telescopes. Imagine fireworks, but on a scale so massive that it would make New Year's Eve in Times Square look like a sparkler on a birthday cake. As the last remnants of our planet are consumed by the sun, it would all be over. So, what have we learned from this harrowing tale? First, it's a good thing that Earth's orbit is stable and we're not in any danger of colliding with the sun anytime soon. But, if there's one takeaway, it's this. We're pretty lucky to be right where we are. Our planet sits in the perfect spot, not too hot, not too cold, but just right for life to flourish. So next time you're feeling a little chilly in winter or grumbling about a hot summer day, remember, it could be worse. A lot worse. In the end, while it's fun, in a slightly terrifying way, to imagine what might happen if Earth collided with the sun, it's not something we need to worry about. Instead, let's focus on keeping our planet in tip-top shape so we can keep enjoying its comfortable orbit for as long as possible. And maybe, just maybe, stay out of the way of any rogue planets or massive space objects that might want to crash our peaceful party.